The true gate cannot be seen. It does not open with effort. It opens when there is no one left to push. You have searched through books, practices, silence, through teachings ancient and new, through the inner and the outer world. You seek the threshold, the point of no return, the sacred door into awakening. You seek enlightenment, and yet the more you strive for it, the more it vanishes. Like a mirage that recedes as you move toward it, like a riddle that only deepens the more you try to solve it. Why? Because the gate you're looking for is not a place, it's not a moment, it's not an event. It is a shift in being, and it does not open through pursuit, it opens through dissolution. This is the hidden truth, whispered through every authentic tradition. The gate cannot be reached, it must be revealed, and it is revealed when the seeker ceases to be the seeker. The ego looks for enlightenment as if it's a prize, a peak, a conquest, an arrival. But the ego cannot enter the gate, because the gate is the absence of ego. This is why the ancient temples placed guardians at every threshold, not to protect secrets, but to ensure readiness. To pass the threshold, you must leave something behind. Not your body, not your name, but your attachment to self, to identity, to knowing, to control. The hidden gate requires nothing from you, and that is why it is so difficult to find. Because the mind is always doing, searching, grasping, framing, and the gate is not interested in any of it. The gate does not care how much you've read, how much you've meditated, how much you've suffered. It opens only when you stop trying to open it. And so it remains hidden, not because it is concealed, but because you are veiled. Veiled by desire, by fear, by effort, by thought. The gate is always here, but you are always just outside yourself. It's not in the sky, not in the mountain, not in the sacred hall. It is where you are, when there is no more seeking in you. This is the paradox. You are the one who guards the gate. You are the wall and the key. You are the one who waits, and the one being waited for. So how do you approach it? You stop approaching. You stop building ladders. You stop imagining outcomes. You stop rehearsing awakening. You sit, you breathe, you listen, until you are so still that even the you that listens fades. And in that space, not sleep, not effort, not trance, just pure openness, the gate is no longer hidden. It was never hidden. It was just too quiet for your mind to notice. It was the silence behind every thought, the stillness beneath every breath, the space between the heartbeat and the world. You do not enter it. You dissolve into it. And what you find there is not enlightenment, not bliss, not visions, but a profound absence, a sacred emptiness that holds everything without holding anything. It is not a thing you reach. It is what remains when there is no more reaching. This is the beginning. This is the first whisper, not of knowledge, but of undoing. The threshold is near because it never left. You are not becoming ready. You are slowly, silently, remembering that you already are. You will not pass with effort. You will not pass with words. You will pass when nothing in you needs to pass. Every mystery school, every sacred path, every genuine spiritual system speaks of them, the guardians of the threshold. Sometimes lions, sometimes serpents, sometimes angels with flaming swords, sometimes silence so absolute it bends reality. Always different in form, but always the same in function: to test the soul before it touches the eternal. These guardians are not punishers. They are not enemies. They are mirrors, and they stand at the edge of your own becoming for one reason: to reflect what you still hold on to. In Hermetic, Egyptian, Vedic, and Gnostic traditions, the seeker approaches a gate, and the gate is guarded, not by force, but by confrontation. You meet exactly what you're not ready to surrender. And until you surrender it, you do not pass. Not because you're denied, but because the vibration of clinging cannot enter silence. These guardians are internalized now. They don't wear armor, they don't wield weapons. They rise in the form of asterisk unnamed fear, asterisk deep, unspoken craving, asterisk identity clinging, asterisk emotional resistance, asterisk subtle pride disguised as humility. They appear the moment you're close to the stillness, the moment you feel the edge of formlessness. They are the last masks before the mirror becomes too clear to lie. You may have already met them. That moment during meditation when you felt you were about to disappear and pulled back in fear. That moment when silence deepened and suddenly your mind panicked as if it couldn't find itself anymore. That's them. Not as monsters, but as the final echo of self grasping for ground. The ancient images remain for a reason. The lion at the temple gate, the sphinx with the riddle, the two pillars before the veil. These are not symbols of danger, they are symbols of readiness. You do not defeat the guardians, you recognize them, you acknowledge them, and you bow, not in submission, but in surrender of illusion. They are fierce only to what is false. They are silent only to what speaks too much. They are still because stillness is the key. And the paradox is this: you cannot pass the guardian as long as you are trying to pass the guardian. The moment you stop trying, the moment you no longer need to attain, you are already beyond. Because the guardian was only guarding the idea of attainment. You may ask, but why must there be guardians at all? Because enlightenment is not a reward, it is the natural state. But everything you've built on top of it must crumble first. The guardians ensure you don't carry your structures into the silence. They ask nothing of you except this: can you let go of what you think you are and step into what you've always been? So yes, the guardians are real, but they were never blocking you. They were showing you what you still believed was you. When you were empty enough, still enough, present enough, you realize they never had to move. Because you are no longer trying to pass. You are simply there. And in that moment, the gate vanishes. Because there never was a door, only the illusion that something in you was outside. At the threshold of the real, the self trembles, because it knows there is nothing beyond it that it can control. Fear is the first guardian always, not because it is the most powerful, but because it is the first veil that tightens when the soul begins to loosen its grip on form. You do not fear death, you fear dissolution. You fear not being able to find yourself in the silence that's coming. You fear that you, your story, your memories, your I will vanish, and nothing will remain to hold on to. This fear is not childish. It is not weakness. It is the most intimate response of the false self facing the edge of its own end. And it must be met not with violence, not with rejection, but with stillness. When you sit in true silence long enough, a strange thing happens. You begin to feel the border dissolve. The thoughts thin, the breath slows, the sense of I softens, and something in you begins to panic. It is subtle. It may come as restlessness, or tightness in the chest, or a sudden desire to move, to stop, to check your phone, to drink water, to do anything but remain still. This is the guardian, and it is whispering, "If you go further, I won't exist." It's not wrong. That voice is right. What will not exist is the construct, the identity, the inner narrator. What will remain is what you've always been beneath that story. But that shift feels like death. To the mind, it is death, because the mind only knows how to define, and what lies beyond the gate cannot be defined. This is why fear appears right before breakthrough. Not fear of falling, but fear of floating away. Fear of no longer being anyone. Fear of infinite space where there is no frame to hold you. You may feel like you're going to disappear, and that is exactly what is required. But not disappear in a way that destroys you. Disappear in a way that frees you from everything you were never meant to carry. The ancient mystics all spoke of this moment. The night of the soul, the desert, the flaming sword that bars Eden, the guardian of flame that turns away all who still cling. And yet, those who stand still and do not flee pass through, not because they fought the fear, but because they saw it for what it was. The final mask of the ego, the self begging to be kept alive, even as it limits your light. You cannot argue with fear. You cannot suppress it. You can only do one thing: remain. You breathe, you soften, you feel it rise, you feel it burn, and you do not move. You allow the fear to wash through you, without naming it, without fixing it, without becoming it. And when it has passed, you realize something. You are still here, but not in the same way. Something dropped, something opened, and what you feared losing was never you to begin with. Fear is not failure. It is the threshold itself. It is the question every initiate must answer in silence. Will you give up the known self for the truth that has no shape? If yes, you pass through, not by force, but by no longer needing to remain the same. And when you do, the fear does not vanish. It bows. It steps aside, because its task is complete. The first guardian is passed, not by battle, but by surrender. To want the light is still to stand outside of it. Once fear has been seen, once the soul stops running, a stillness emerges. But in that stillness, something else begins to whisper. A subtler voice, gentle, spiritual, beautiful even. It says, "Now you are ready. Soon you will arrive. You are getting close." And without noticing, you begin to reach again, to anticipate, to hope. You begin to desire. Desire is the second guardian. It is not fierce. It does not frighten you. It seduces you with the noblest of longings. Asterisk, the longing to awaken. Asterisk, the longing to dissolve. Asterisk, the longing to be free. But even this longing is still a movement outward. It implies distance. It implies lack. It implies that what you are seeking is not yet yours. The moment you say, "I want to be enlightened," you've created a new illusion that there is a future, that there is a you who must get somewhere, that the light is separate. This is the veil of spiritual becoming. And it is more difficult to see than fear ever was, because fear screams, but desire smiles. Desire feeds the seeker. It gives shape to the path. It paints the goal. It keeps you moving, always moving, but never arriving. You can sit for years in meditation. You can recite mantras. You can cleanse, fast, study, strive. And the entire time, the flame of desire still burns at the center. Let this bring me to awakening. Let me finally break through. Let this be the moment. And so you remain a half step away from what is already here. This is the second guardian's riddle. Can you let go even of your longing for light? Can you give up even the idea of arrival? To most, this sounds like surrendering the journey. But in truth, it is the end of illusion. You don't abandon the path. You abandon the need to get anywhere on it. You remain present, alert, available, but empty of striving. Not apathetic, not cold, but deeply still. And in that stillness, something shifts. Because now, you are no longer reaching for the flame. You are becoming the space in which it already burns. You are not trying to awaken. You are the field in which awakening can arise naturally. To pass the second guardian, you do not kill desire. You do not suppress it. You see it for what it is. The last thread of identity, trying to weave itself into transcendence. And then, you let it go. Without force, without pride, without fear. Just release. You stop asking for more. You stop waiting for a sign. You stop needing the next moment to be anything other than this. And when you do, you realize the gate was never closed. It was just hidden behind your wanting. The light does not come. It emerges when there is nothing left in you to block it. Desire, even pure, is still a cloud. When it clears, there is nothing to see, because the seer has become the seeing itself. You are not waiting for the light. You are what happens when there's nothing left to wait for. The final veil wears the face of truth. You have faced fear. You have released desire. You are still. You are silent. You are close. But something remains. A shimmer, a glow, a sacred image, radiant and calm. You feel as though you've arrived, as though the gate has opened, as though you are now enlightened. And that is the final illusion. The third guardian does not block the way. It becomes the way. It wears robes of white. It speaks with words of love. It reflects every teaching you've ever studied. It looks like peace. But it is not peace. It is projection. This is the final form of illusion, spiritual identity. The idea of awakening, the image of realization, the subtle belief, I have reached it. This self-image is more dangerous than fear or desire ever were, because you don't run from it, you worship it. It may manifest as visions, as inner voices, as sensations of light or spaciousness, as deep intuitive impressions that this is it. But this is still a thing, still a frame, still a duality, still something you perceive, describe, attach to. And so it is still not it. The true cannot be known, only lived. The real does not come with fireworks. It comes with disappearance. The third guardian is illusion in its final sacred costume. And its test is this. Will you settle for the image of the truth, or will you dissolve even that? Will you rest in an experience, or pass through even the bliss into that which contains bliss without being it. Because the Absolute is not an event, not a peak, not a final vision. It is the absence of all framing, a falling away so complete that there is no one left to confirm what has happened. You cannot describe the light and be in it. You cannot say, "I have found it," without separating yourself from it. The moment you name it, you are standing beside it. And so this guardian stands silent. It holds out everything you ever wanted, all the symbols, all the signs, all the confirmations, and then whispers, "Will you walk past even this? Not into darkness, not into more mystery, but into no ground at all." This is the threshold that no one can help you cross. No teacher, no practice, no thought. Because this is not a gate, it is the end of the one who sees gates. The only way through is to see that there is no one left to go through, to release not just the search, but the seeker, not just the concept, but the one who held it, not just the idea of "I am awake," but the very sense of "I." And what remains? Not silence, but the field in which even silence arises. Not stillness, but that which does not move because it was never born. You do not pass the third guardian. You vanish, and in vanishing, you are the passing. The illusion fades not when you reject it, but when you no longer need it to feel whole. And then, without movement, you are beyond. Not there, not other, just what has always been. Without name, without center, without anyone left to claim it. All your effort brought you to the edge, but only silence can take you through. There is a moment on every true path when you run out of things to do. You've studied, you've sat, you've faced fear, you've watched desire, you've surrendered illusion. And now, you are here, here, where there is nothing left to say, no one left to convince, no practice left to perform. Only silence, but not the silence of absence, the silence of arrival, of breath resting inside itself, of attention no longer chasing content, of being with no more commentary. This is not something you enter. It's what's been waiting beneath all sound, all motion, all self. In ancient traditions, this silence was known by many names. Asterisk, the cloud of unknowing. Asterisk, the still point. Asterisk, the deep heart. Asterisk, the void. Asterisk, the great mother. Asterisk, the womb of God. But names are sounds, and this is before sound. True silence is not the absence of noise, it is the absence of the need to name. It is a living field, a presence that holds everything without clinging to anything. And in this space, without you doing anything, a door begins to shift. Not open, just soften. Because the door was never locked, it was only loudness that made it seem solid. Every desire added a layer, every fear a vibration, every image a ripple. Now there are no more ripples. And what remains is clarity. Not like understanding, more like emptiness that glows. In this clarity, you don't ascend. You don't pass into some higher realm. You simply notice. You are already here, and you always were. Silence does not give you enlightenment. It does not reward effort. It reveals what has been true long before effort began. That there is no journey, no gate, no seeker, no other shore. Only this breath, this not knowing, this vibrant nothing. It is here that even silence becomes transparent. Not something you hear, something you are. And this is when the gate, that great and final threshold, fades. Not with drama, not with light, but like mist melting in the morning sun. Because now, there is no one left trying to enter, no one measuring presence, no one chasing quiet. Just quiet. That is the key. The ancient ones knew this. They sat in caves. They wrapped themselves in linen at night, not to seek visions, but to stop chasing them, to become so empty that the real could fill them without interference. This is the silence that ends seeking, not by resolution, but by disappearance. When this silence is full, you do not become special. You do not become elevated. You become invisible to the mind, to form, to division. And in that invisibility, you shine. The gate opens by itself when you are no longer knocking. You searched for the gate. You found the guardians. You passed the trials. And now you stand in front of nothing. Not a door, not a threshold, not a burst of light. Just this. And suddenly it becomes clear. There was no gate. There was never a gate. There was only the illusion that something stood between you and what you already are. Every fear was your own voice, resisting stillness. Every desire was a flicker of the self trying to remain real. Every illusion was your longing for form, wearing sacred disguise. Even the silence was not something you entered. It was always here. You simply stopped covering it. And now, in the absence of all effort, there is no crossing. Because crossing implies two sides. And that duality was the final mirage. This is the end of seeking, not because you found what you were looking for, but because you finally saw. You are what was looking. The gate was your idea, a projection of separation, a symbol of distance, in a universe where all is within. It seemed far because you believed you were. It seemed guarded because you clung to identity. It seemed locked because you carried a key. But there was no door, no lock, no edge. The moment this is seen, truly seen, there is nothing to do. No next step, no confirmation, no reward. Just the quiet dissolving of the entire structure of seeking. You do not become enlightened, because enlightenment is not a thing. You do not reach the light, because the light was never absent. You do not transform, because transformation requires time, and this is outside time. You may feel still, you may feel nothing, you may feel peace so subtle you're not even sure it's there. And that's perfect, because now there is no more need for sensation, no more need for validation, no more need for you. Not in the personal sense, not in the I am special sense. Just this. No center, no story, no arrival. You have not entered the mystery. You have remembered that you are the mystery. And here's the final paradox. Even this realization is nothing. Even this truth cannot be held, because to hold it would be to step outside it again. So you let it go and remain, not in enlightenment, not in bliss, just in what is. Open, vast, undefined. There was no gate. There was no seeker. There is only this. And it has always been here. You kept waiting for the moment, and now you see There is no moment. There never was. The path did not lead here, it was here. And now that the mind has stopped marking time, stopped narrating experience, stopped pointing toward a future breakthrough, you realize you never crossed anything. Because what you were seeking was not across a river, nor beyond a veil, nor behind a final silence. It was in the stillness of the one who no longer needs to become. Crossing is movement, becoming is time, but truth has no direction, no unfolding, no sequence, no ceremony. It just is. This is not surrender, it is disappearance. The end of the one who surrenders, the end of the one who watches surrender, the end of the watcher. And in that absence, not void, but perfect clarity, you remain. Not as someone enlightened, not as someone awakened, but as that which no longer needs either concept to exist. You are not on the other side. There are no sides. You are not free, because there is no bondage left to be free from. You are not whole, because there is no longer anything separate to be reunited. You do not say, "I see," because there is no longer an I behind the seeing. There is only seeing, not of things, but of being itself, without subject, without object, without center. This is the moment the ancient initiates hinted at, but never described, because it cannot be told. To describe it would require stepping outside it, and there is no longer an outside. You cross without crossing, because the line was never real. It was a tension in your perception, a condition in your belief. Now released, now vanished, now unnecessary. There is no fanfare, no celestial choir, no crown, just the most natural presence imaginable. So natural it was overlooked for lifetimes. You are not shining. You are transparent. You are not floating. You are groundless. You are not gone. You are more here than ever before, because there is no longer a you separating you from the present. And in this, you are utterly at peace. Not because peace was found, but because the one who resisted it has dissolved. There is no more seeking, no more path, no more next. Only the soft, unshakable recognition. This is what has always been, even when I believed I was lost. You have crossed, but nothing moved. You are home, but you never left. You are free, but nothing held you. You are whole, but nothing was missing. This is not the end. This is not the beginning. This is the absence of both. You have crossed without crossing, and in this, there is no longer anything to say.